Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Steve Daniel. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm serving as your worship associate today. I'm also joined by our worship leader, Reverend Chris Rothbauer, pronouns they, them, their. We're excited to welcome you to our worship service this morning. We're glad to have you with us today, whether you're joining us in person or virtually, whether you've been here, whether you're here for the first time or have been coming longer than you can remember. Here at Horizon, we welcome people of all faiths and of no faith in particular. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome among us. So please be our guest after service for coffee and conversation over in the fellowship hall. And as a community, we also welcome the sharing of joys and sorrows and concerns. You're welcome to fill out the joys and sorrows slips on the table near the Welcome Center out there. And then also in the pockets of some of the chairs, and on the Joys and Sorrows table in the front of the sanctuary. And/or you're welcome to light a candle. This can be done at any time of the service up through the offertory. So I have a couple of announcements today. First, from Deb Freeman, she'd like to call your attention to the Fall 24 Adult Small Groups and Classes insert in your order of service. Now is the time to register for a variety of small groups that will help you grow spiritually and deepen your connection with others in the community. Or there's a sign up for a 2-session small group introducing Unitarian Universalism, or an 11-session exciting new UU Wellspring program that is an in-depth exploration of our shared faith within the context of your personal experience and relationship to the world. Or you can consider a 6-session skill-building course called Transgender Inclusion in Congregations, which explores how to create congregations that are fully inclusive and affirming. Also, on Sunday the 25th, 2 weeks from today, we will be holding a facilitator training for anyone who is leading or thinking about leading a small group or class or making a presentation. So if you have any questions or would like to register today, please visit the Adult RE table in the fellowship hall after the service. It's part of the program fair. So we'll first call up Pam, who has an announcement.
Hi, I'm Pam Schumann, she, her, hers. I am associated with Horizon Players now for 30 years, and I want to call your attention to the insert in your program, in your order service. And since this is the question box service, I have a couple questions for you. Do you like flamingos? Do you like rocket ships? And do you like extraterrestrials? Then you're going to love Thelma's Redemption. That is coming Friday, the 23rd of August, Saturday, the 24th of August. The Saturday is a 6 o'clock curtain. That's new for people who like to get out a little bit earlier on a Saturday night and get home earlier. The Friday night is at 8. You can purchase your tickets today out in the Fellowship Hall. You can send me a request to players@horizonuu.org. And we hope to see you there. There's going to be music and laughs and friends and food. Come to the show. It's wonderful. Thank you. And Ellen is now going to come up. Oh, Alan, I'm sorry. Alan is going to come up. I saw Ellen today.
So, does anybody miss the in-person auctions? Yeah, a lot of you have told me this. So we're going to have one October 12th. So start now thinking of what you want to offer. And my wife, Beth, had a really great idea that we should ask people what they really enjoyed in the past. And a couple of people have given me some ideas, like Gay Cox said, hey, having a handyman that is somebody from your church that you know could come in is a really great thing. And maybe you're not a general handyman. Maybe you're really good at computer stuff, or you're really good at fixing hanging paintings or something like that. That would be a really good offering. And Lisa Casto said they went on a thrift shopping adventure. They went to a thrift store, and then they had a little fashion show afterwards to show everything. But this year, I also have in my hand the much coveted and much beloved Peter Hendy's Peanut Butter Incredibles recipe. Now, for anybody who doubts the veracity of my statement, the amounts in the ingredients are not in ounces and tablespoons, they are in boxes and bags. And the word glop is twice in the instructions. No, you may not have a copy, you will have to bid on them. But start thinking of what you want to offer. We're going to have the opening for the offerings probably next week, if not the week after. And we'll have some more. If you have any of your favorite things that you've been through, anything, go ahead and email it to me. And if you want to volunteer to help, and there's a couple of you who have begged me to have one of these who have not volunteered to help yet, I expect to see your emails this week. Thank you very much.
And finally, we have Jamie Pease is coming up for an announcement as well.
Hello, I'm Jamie Pease. She, her, my pronouns. This is my barnacle, Gemma. I know. I have two announcements. One, your green insert here. Again, the women's retreat, yay, registration has officially started. So get those rooms, get signed up quickly. If you need assistance with the cost, there are scholarships. I took advantage of that the first year I went. So don't let that be a hindrance. If you are 21 and up and female aligned, you are welcome. And it's just a lot of fun. It's up at Lake Murray in Ardmore, Oklahoma, October 4th, 5th, and 6th, and it's just a lot of fun. Nurturing the spirit is our theme this year. All kinds of fun is going to happen. Along with that, on the blue insert, we do a service project every year. This year we're working with Genesis Women's Shelter, and we're going to be creating feminine hygiene bags. It's for women who are escaping abusive situations, and sometimes they're leaving with just the clothes on their back. So we make hygiene bags. We did it last year, and it was fantastic. So we are also taking donations for that. You'll see a box table right over there on the outside of those by the gong. And just, there's a list of things that we need. If you can think of anything else, like we had some like under eye moisture patches last year that was just a fun little treat to put in the bags, but necessities first, please. And then anything fun that you might think of that you could just like, hey, they could probably use some pampering would be awesome too. So, all right, thank you.
Our call to worship this morning is from Krista Flanagan. What if everything always went according to plan? At first, we might accomplish more of what we think we need to accomplish, and it may seem less stressful at first, being able to anticipate what happens next. But after a certain amount of time, and that amount would vary from person to person, the once comfortable predictability would become less comfortable and, well, boring. If we always know what happens next, we lose the joy of surprise, serendipitous experiences, and the excitement that comes from anticipating the unknown. Friends, let us gather with open, curious hearts, ready to explore the unpredictable, learn from its wisdom, and embrace its beauty.
Our chalice lighting this morning is from Julianne Lepp. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths. Okay. So each Sunday through the summer, we water the flowers we planted communally on the Earth Day ritual in April to remind us of the seeds we plant in community each time we come together at Horizon. Please join me in saying our watering words, which will be on the screen behind me. In colors bright, in essence sweet, like flowers we blossom when we meet. O source of light, our song we praise. This beauty fills our hearts with praise. So please join me in our affirmation, which is printed on the back of your order of service and also projected on the screen above. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to serve freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth, thus to be covenant together. I now invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, number 1003 in the Teal hymnal, Where Do We Come From?
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we go? That's wrong, it's twice as fast. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Horizon participates in our community in many, many ways. And one of the ways is by you all bringing donations for the pantries of MetroCrest services and for our Little Free pantry right outside our parking lot. That things like shelf-stable food items, personal care products are always in demand. And if you did happen to bring some today, I am going to call younger kids up to the front to sit in the first row here. And so please pass down your donations, and I'm going to ask them to put it in this basket right over here. So would our younger kids come down for a story, please? Well, hello. It's good to see everybody. I just got to get myself settled up here. Oh, I am so glad to see you. I'm glad you're here. So, I have a story today about a town and a mountain. In a small town nestled at the foot of a mountain, the words, hang on. Here are the words. Here that is. The words, "The answer is no," was carved into the side of the mountain. No one knew where the words came from. But the townspeople relied on it for every decision. When they wanted to make a decision, they just looked up at the mountain and said, "No, okay." So life was simple and predictable.
The mic isn't very loud.
Oh, it's not? Oh, sorry. I'm trying to keep my signs from falling off my lap. Life was simple and predictable until one day Ma Custis couldn't decide what to make for dinner. She asked the mountain if she could make liver, and the answer was, of course, no. No. Okay, so she continued asking about other options. Steak, chicken, tacos. Sounds good to me. But the answer remained the same. No. Frustrated, Ma Custis finally made liver anyway, even though everyone in the family hated it. Can't blame them. Exasperated, Ma Custis decided it was time for a change. She called a town meeting where everyone agreed it might be better if the mountain said yes for a little while. they hired Mason Sharp, the town's stone carver, to recarve the words into the mountainside. After 2 weeks of almost round-the-clock hard work, the mountain now read, "The answer is yes." Excited by this change, Ma Custis asked the mountain if she could make liver for dinner. To her surprise, the mountain answered yes, and Ma was shocked, as her family had vowed to never eat liver again. She asked if she should break her promise to her family to never make liver again, and the mountain said yes. The townspeople, especially Ma Custis' family, began to grumble. They realized that this new answer was just as problematic as the old one. The smallest of the Custis children had then suggested a revolutionary idea. Why did there have to be just one answer? Could there be more? The townspeople were stunned by the idea and shouted out suggestions about what the mountain could say. The answer is sometimes yes and sometimes no. And sometimes the answer is wait and see. And sometimes I just don't know. Mason, the stone carver, who had been listening to all this talk, took the floor and said, "I think I can do it, but, well, it's gonna take a lot of time. I'm not gonna work all day and night like I did last time. How about if I just work on it and when I can, and I'll just put up a sign so that people know what's going on and can be patient." And so it was. The funny thing is that while Mason worked on the mountain every day for a while, with above his temporary sign, everyone in town was eager to see what the answer would be. But soon, Mason got tired and stopped going up the mountain so much, and people started forgetting about the sign on the side of the mountain. What happened is they all started asking each other questions and helping everyone else find the answers that seemed to fit. The townspeople realized that different questions usually had different answers, and that sometimes the same question had more than one answer, and that there were many more answers than they imagined. And you know what? That was all fine with them. After a while, they thought maybe the answer the mountain was giving them right then and there, written on the stonemason sign, was just as it was better and more sensible than any answer it had given before. And so they left it as it was. And what do you think the sign said? Do you want to guess? What do you think? No. Do you think they went back to no? Yeah. Does everybody else think that? Here is what the temporary sign said. The answer is under construction. So thank you so much for your listening. We have a full house today. Middle school, you're going to the purple room. High school, you are going to room S7, and we will see you back there. Let's go ahead and sing you out to your rooms.
May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
As we approach the time for our offering, give what you will. For the church that has meant so much for you, for the church that has meant so much to those who came before you, and for the church that will mean so much to people that you will never know. Give what you will, for you are a generous people. Thank you to our members and friends who give and pledge electronically. If you would like to give electronically, you may do so on the Breeze app or online at horizonuu.org/donate. The offering will now be joyfully given and received. Thank you for your generosity. reading this morning from Kate Landis called Exploring the Mystery. The ancients told stories and wrote parables to explain what they had found when exploring the mystery. That is all religion is. People wondering about where they came from, why we are here, where we go after we die. The Bible, the Eightfold Path of Buddhism, the 7 principles of my own Unitarian Universalist tradition are all just ideas people had about what made life meaningful. What do you think holiness is? Just as valid and just as true. So, what do you think about holiness? What do you think about God? There is nothing to be afraid of. Your spiritual quest begins now.
So, a warning, especially if this is your first time here this morning, or if it's your first time hearing me, this is going to be a bit of a different service this morning. I do not have a full sermon script. I have 2 pages of notes. If you ask me after the service if you can have my answer to something, I'm going to say, well, I hope Josh got it on recording, because I don't know if I'll remember it. You see, for a number of years, I have made it a tradition that my first service back after my time away in July, I do what's called a question box sermon. Some of you might be familiar with this, but if you're not, the idea is that I let members of the congregation submit questions to me for me to answer. I am largely going to be doing that off the cuff today, although I did write some notes down for things I don't want to forget. I do this for a couple of reasons. One, it's an easy service to come back to, low pressure. I don't have to worry about my first service back being in gathering. That would be stressful. But the other reason is it gives me an idea of what you all are thinking about. And what you all are thinking about might be different than what I'm thinking about. And indeed, there are some questions that I'm not sure I'm going to get to today that are probably going to be the fodder for a full-blown sermon in the future. Because y'all asked big questions. I was worried when I put out the call that I wasn't going to get any questions, and then I got what is surely going to be too many, because unless we're going to stay the afternoon for me to answer all 26 questions. So I say that to say if I don't get to your question today, that doesn't mean it wasn't a good question. That just means I had to pick and choose questions that I felt I could do justice to in the time that we have together this morning. So with that in mind, let's jump in and see what you all have been thinking about. The first question this morning is we often hear the phrase, spiritual but not religious. How do you react to that, especially in the context of being a minister? Very good question. And I think it's actually related to where I'm going to go in the second question. But we'll get to there. We're in a time of changing religious dynamics. In so many places around the world, membership and attendance in traditional religious services has declined. That's been slower to happen in the United States, but it's been happening nonetheless. According to Pew Research in 2018, they found that 17% of Americans now never attend church service. 22% of those identify as spiritual but not religious. And there's every reason to believe that this poll, which was held before COVID happened, has only been exacerbated by the start of COVID. There's a lot of reasons to believe that America is going the route that much of Europe has taken and is becoming much less religious. In the early 2000s, a lot of Unitarian Universalists were optimistic because of this, because they saw spiritual but not religious as a prime recruiting ground. These should be people who should be ready to rush into our church, right? It's not that simple. And in fact, the widespread attempt to recruit spiritual but not religious people into our faith did not work. You see, so often spiritual but not religious people left religion because it caused them pain or it doesn't make sense anymore. These are people who really were just turned off by religion, found themselves not wanting to be a part of organized religion anymore, or just saw it as unnecessary. The other factor that so many don't take in mind when they think about spiritual but not religious people is that not all of them are atheist, agnostics, or even friendly to Unitarian Universalism. You will find a lot of spiritual but not religious people who will have more in common with evangelical Christians than they will with us, because that term does not mean Unitarian Universalist who doesn't know it yet. There's a sense in common that going it independently is better than trying to find their way in community. Now, that question asks me, what do I think about this as a minister? I have a lot of feelings. One of them is compassion, because I've been there. I get it. I get why you would want to eschew all organized religion, especially if it's caused you pain or harm of any sort. Why would you want to continue in something that's taking your money and shaming you while not providing much sustenance? But on another part, I think about our fifth principle from the 1984 Principles of Unitarian Universalist, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. I sincerely believe that everyone has the right to a free search for truth and meaning. But I also believe that search has to be responsible. And responsibility, I've preached an entire sermon on before. But just to give you an idea, I wonder how you can be responsible in your search for truth and meaning if you aren't in dialogue with anyone else. I don't necessarily think that that means you have to go to a church service, but I do find myself in my role as spiritual director having more and more people come to me who say that they're not ready to come back to church, but they want to talk to someone involved in church. I guess all of that is to say, it's a messy topic, isn't it? My role as a minister, I see, is to try not to repeat the patterns that have driven so many people out of organized religion. I think a lot of organized religion has a bad rap for good reason right now. And that bad rap is bigger than I have the power to fix. But I think simply by being the community we are, I think we can begin to shift that. And maybe, hopefully, that will start causing waves in the world. So do I have any sort of disdain for spiritual but not religious people? Absolutely not. I might have been there too, if not for a combination of events in my life. But I do think we have a responsibility to do better than religion has done for many people in the past. Question 2 interestingly enough, asked me, what do you believe is the biggest challenge that Horizon faces in the common year? Well, have you heard that the dynamics of religion in America are changing? I think that this trend of people leaving organized religion is a threat to every organized religion. I don't think we're immune to it. There are so many more options for creating community. There are so many other options that people do on Sunday morning. I constantly hear complaints from ministers and religious educators about how they don't have many families coming on a consistent basis because there's soccer games on Sunday, or there's baseball games, or their kid has ballet recital. I don't say this to condemn any families. Your kid needs the best experience that they can get. And doesn't it make you wonder why we still only have service on Sunday mornings? In an age when so many people work on Sunday mornings, in an age when so many people are doing activities on Sunday morning, in an age when Sunday morning may be people's only opportunity to sleep in, why are we only doing service on Sunday morning? My colleagues at the Church of the Larger Fellowship do service on Sunday evening and Monday evening. I'm not up here announcing that starting next week we're going to be... But I am raising a question. If we want to reach people, we're going to have to think beyond Sunday morning, I believe. Sunday morning will continue to be an important part of Unitarian Universalist religious life as long as there are people willing to come and be a part of it. But I don't think we can count on everyone having Sunday morning free to come and do that anymore. In fact, I may be stealing the thunder from one of my questions later on, but I would have become a Unitarian Universalist sooner if my local church had anything available other than Sunday morning. Because when your boss tells you that they need you on Sunday mornings, they don't take as an excuse anymore, I've got to go to church. You either do it or you don't. And just as systems are adapting for new technology, I think we have to face the fact that the model of church we're using is straight out of the 1950s. It is outdated, and it's time to think about what it means to do church in the 21st century. I promise there won't be an announcement in the newsletter next week that I didn't tell you all about. But let's think about what that means. I had the next question in several times and in several different forms, and in fact, one of you didn't submit it after I told you it had already been submitted several times. This summer at General Assembly, those gathered overwhelmingly voted to adopt changes to Article 2 of the Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws, which define our purposes and covenant. Now our congregation's covenant with the UUA will include the values with love at the center. How do you think the shift from principles to values will affect our faith? This is going to be a tough one to give some background to for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about right now. But essentially, since 1961, and then modified in 1984, our association, our movement, had 7 principles. Start first six, and then we added a seventh in the 80s, that largely defined who we are as a religious community. We did a pretty radical change in them this summer by redefining the 7 principles as 6 values with love at the center. Oh, and in fact, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah got them up behind me, except evolution changed to transformation. This was the first draft. The vote was overwhelming. It was over 80%, and they only needed 62% to pass it. What I can tell you is that there was a lot of hand-wringing by the people who voted against it. Some of the people who voted against it, let me clarify. I have a lot of respect if you don't resonate with the words. There will never be perfect words. But there is a lot of hand-wringing about would we really still be the same Unitarian Universalism if we replaced the principles with the values. And I've wrestled with this myself. I came in because I liked the 7 principles. The 7 principles really resonated with me. And the interesting thing about our faith is that in the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association is a clause that requires us to review and change these every 15 years. Do you know any other religion that has a requirement to change one of their foundational documents every 15 years? Imagine if we went to Rome and said, we need to look at the Bible and make changes now. I don't know about y'all, but that really excites me. Even if, and for the record, I do like the values, but even if I didn't, I think I'd still be excited because we're a living tradition. We are a tradition that requires us to think about whether the principles or now the values still resonate with us every 15 years ago so that we don't get bogged down in dogma, so that we don't get bogged down in requiring a creed. And honestly, so many of the objections that were voiced at General Assembly sounded like using the 7 principles as a creed. How will this affect our faith? Well, I can tell you that I already find it a much more dynamic way to explain our faith to people. I never memorized all 7 principles. I can get some of them, like the inherent worth and dignity of all people. I don't know the peace one by heart. I'm not even going to try to butcher it up here. But values, I can remember that. And in fact, there's an acronym you're probably going to hear somewhere in the coming days, JETPIG. Justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, generosity. Because remember, evolution's the old one. And when someone pointed out that love was left out, someone said, well, how about J. Piglet? The point is, people are finding this dynamic. I heard one person at General Assembly say their 4-year-old could recite the values because of this. Isn't that exciting and interesting? That 4-year-old will grow up actually knowing what Unitarian Universalism stands for? It's not when you look at the actual content of the values, it's not a terribly radical transformation. In fact, all 7 of the principles are contained in the words that spell out these values in the bylaw change. But what it does do is it asks us to reimagine what is important for Unitarian Universalism going forward into the future. And in fact, one of the principles, generosity, was not in the, or one of the values, generosity, was not in the old principles at all. Nor was love. The word love is not in the principles at all. What this does in my mind is it tells us we are a generous faith, and we are a faith that is centered on love. One of the questions that I didn't think I was going to get to, but that I'll go ahead and get to now, because it's related to this, is what would be my elevator speech for explaining Unitarian Universalism. Before this, I might have hem and hawed about what I was going to say, but now I can say Unitarian Universalism is the faith that puts love at the center and encourages people to transform themselves and their world through acts of generosity and in a spirit of pluralism and justice. That excites me. And you know what? If you don't like one of the words, you can always spearhead a movement to change it. Because they are not written in stone, and if you don't spearhead that movement to change it, in 15 years, the whole movement will. So yes, when I'm 55, I'll be doing this again, and I'll be just as excited then. I think I'm going to end part one with a like question. Are people inherently good and evil, and what is the role of punishment in righteous community? Just a like question, just end our first part. The answer is yes and no. Good and evil are interesting concepts, aren't they? What's interesting is how often everyone who is opposed to what I stand for is the evil one, and everyone who is for what I stand for is the good one. But when I was a philosophy major, I was highly influenced by the work of Hannah Arendt, largely because I had a professor who was a international Hannah Arendt expert. And Hannah Arendt wrote a book called Eichmann on Jerusalem. Keep in mind that Hannah Arendt was a Jewish woman. And she traveled to Jerusalem to see the trial of Adolf Eichmann, the Holocaust instigator. Because she, and as she said, she wanted to see the face of evil. What she was shocked to see was a man that if you passed him on the street, he might not have made any impression on you whatsoever. He came home at night and pet his dog and put his kids to bed, and during the day he helped kill 6 million Jews. Arendt called it the banality of evil. That evil is not this giant, these are my words, not hers. Evil is not some sort of Scooby-Doo monster that's going to jump out at you and that you're going to know face to face. Evil happens in quite common people. I think we're all good and we're all evil because we all have the capacity to do both. Which one we are in the moment really depends on how our actions affect the lives of others. And this is an old pagan concept, that good and evil are made communally. that there is not some God who's keeping a track of how good or evil you are, but that your actions are good or evil based on what you do. I don't know that there is any righteous punishment. As my friend and Druid John Beckett might put it, humans are not the center of the universe. We can't expect that every bit of evil that's done in the world is going to be punished eventually. At least I don't think so. And that's hard, isn't it? What we can expect is that our actions can make the world a good or a better place. And that's the faith that I hold on to. So on that note, we now take time to honor the sorrows and joys of this community, knowing that we're all interconnected and that what affects one affects us all. Laura Wooden shares a joy 29 years of marriage. And an anonymous joy to say, welcome back, Reverend Chris. I did not write that, I promise. We light a candle this morning to honor all the joys and sorrows which have gone unspoken and reside only in our hearts. Please join me in the spirit of prayer or meditation in whatever way feels right with these words from Kyle Johnson. After the reading, we'll have a space of silence, which will be broken by our responsive hymn, number 1058 in the Till hymnal, Be Ours a Religion. O Spirit that moves in all things, great mystery, whose reach spans beyond the cold, distant edges of our universe, and yet is present within the vast subatomic emptiness, coursing through every fiber and every breath of our being and through being itself. Help us to see the miracle in the mundane, to see the crystal stars, the shape-shifting clouds, the patient trees, to see each other through fresh eyes. For it is so easy to forget what we truly are and what we've been given. As we move through our lives, let us remember to see through the mundane to the miracle beneath, and to perceive the common substance that gives birth to our myriad forms, that mystery that spans beyond the edges of the universe and yet infuses our next breath. And let this foundational awareness guide us on our paths as we work towards peace and fight for justice, while always informed by a spirit of compassion. Blessed be.
Shrine, the good heart, its creed.
A reading from Paul Stephen Dudenhoff. The freedom to doubt, to question, to be content to live in mystery is central to the liberal religious tradition. Like the process of evolution itself, the path that we follow, our practice, is not easy or simple. It isn't without its dead ends or its disappointments. It doesn't guarantee that all our conclusions will be final or that we will ever find an answer to all the questions. But also, like the process of evolution, it's filled with great expressions of beauty and awe that are sometimes born of struggle and at other times come as an unexpected grace.
I love when the readings validate my choice of anthem. So, in planning this service, I was reminded of a piece by Charles Ives called "The Unanswered Question." If I were able to summon an orchestra to play it, to have it played, I would. But unfortunately, I'll have to play a recording. I'll not make a habit of this. But I thought this piece was really cool. You'll hear the strings that are kind of peaceful and static. That's kind of the sort of background nature of the universe. You'll hear a trumpet that will ask the question, the same phrase each time. And then you'll hear the woodwinds give an increasingly confusing and discordant answer that is in a different key from the sort of base nature of the universe. So it's really cool, and I hope you enjoy.
I always, when I do these services, underestimate the amount of time it's going to take to answer these questions. So I'm only going to do a couple more, and then we'll close today. As I say, I apologize to everyone whose question I didn't get to. Please know that many of them are percolating for full-blown sermons. So I'll do one more big one, and then we'll do a really fun one that's not about good and evil, I promise. The next question is, what is the meaning of life? Does life have purpose or meaning, and how can you find meaning or make meaning? Does it have meaning? I don't know. I don't think that there's inherent meaning in the universe. I think I wanted to believe that at one point because I wanted to believe that there was something to where I could turn my attention to and really find a way to make meaning of everything that's happened in my life. I saw that meaning in God's purpose. I stopped believing that there is inherent meaning in my early 20s. And yet, for much of my life, I've still behaved as if that were true until someone told me, why aren't you making meaning out of your life? I don't recommend saying that to everyone you meet on the street who's having a hard time, for the record. That can be toxically positive depending on the time and place that you say it. And yet there's some truth to it, isn't there? The meaning we find in our lives is the meaning that we make. And I think we make meaning by bringing attention to what happens in our life. And by holding on to the sacred gem in it. I think it's why so many religious traditions have contemplative practices at the center with them, such as the Buddhist practice of meditation, the pagan practice of magic, or the Christian practice of prayer. Because these are ways to hold on to the things in our lives that matter. Because when it comes down to it, I have yet to have a God come down from anywhere and tell me that something matters. And yet things matter all the time to me. And here is the other contradicting thread of this. What matters to you might not matter to another person. I hear it all the time in couples. I'm not going to say any names as to not embarrass. I saw a couple of you look down when I said that. But the things that matter to one person don't need to matter to another. And in what I'm proposing, that's okay. You find what's meaningful for you, and everyone around you will also find what's meaningful for them. That's why I don't think Unitarian Universalism is the right path for everyone, because what we find meaningful might not be meaningful for another person. And that's okay. I like having great big giant parties with everyone, but I get that not everyone wants to come to my party. What matters in the end is that we have ways that we can take a moment and figure out what is bringing us joy, what is bringing us purpose. And if you're having trouble finding those things, that's when it may be time to talk to someone about it. That's what ultimately helped me, was getting into therapy and spiritual direction and having someone that I could bounce things off of, someone who wasn't afraid to call me on my own bullshit. And I think in the end, if you can find what's meaningful for you, maybe that's the definition of a well-lived life after all. My final question, I promised you it was going to be a fun one. I promise you I did not write this one, but I know who did. Is how is your new dog settling in? Calvin and I adopted a new dog at the end of June, and the timing was not coincidental because I knew I was going to have study leave time that I could help adapt him to the new house. And yes, we have pictures that you can stop us and ask us to see. He is doing well. He is in training. We're hoping he's going to be the valedictorian of his class. He is slowly learning to be a part of our lives, and we to him, and we're really loving it. We're slowly getting him integrated. One of the biggest lessons he still has to learn is that chasing the cat is not a game that's fun for everyone involved. But we will get there. We will get there. We're finally feeling settled into the place. It finally feels like home now that it's not just me and a dog hanging out there. And I'm really enjoying life. And someone asked me during candidating week, how was I going to enjoy 105-degree days in Dallas? And I thought they were being facetious. I thought they were not. I was the one that was wrong. But despite that, I couldn't be any happier to be in Dallas and with you all as I begin my second year of ministry with you. And that was a shock yesterday at the board retreat when I said it out loud. Yes, this is the beginning of our second year together. May it be only the second of many years to come. Blessed be.
We extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. This we do because we envision a beloved community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world. I'd like to invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 77, in the gray hymnal, Seek Not Afar for Beauty.
Seek not afar for beauty, lo, it glows into wet grasses all about your feet, in birds in sunshine, childish faces sweet, in stars and mountain summits topped with snows. Go not abroad for happiness, behold, it is a flower blooming at your door. Bring love and laughter home and evermore. Joy shall be yours as changing years unfold. In wonder workings or some bush aflame, we look for truth and fancy it concealed. But earth's uncommon things it stands revealed, while grass and flowers and stars spell out the name.
Our benediction is by Allie Casey Bill. May we find the courage to revel in the experience of the mystery. May we approach the unknown with excitement, even if we can only muster a tiny bit. May we celebrate the curiosity that leads to searching. May we meet ourselves along the way and love us unapologetically. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.